The nicest thing, I think, besides that patients earn their care, is that dentists do it right in their own office. They don't have to leave the practice. They don't have to work with equipment they may not be familiar with, or with assistants or staff. And the patients are treated with a really nice, respectful greeting, because no one even knows that they're there as, quote, a charity case. They're blended in with all the other patients.
If you're looking for it, you'll find it. And I think a lot of students don't know that this is an opportunity, because there's kind of this cookie cutter hygiene career path, and public health isn't always talked about.
Hopefully, I will help bridge the connection between the medical providers to understand more about the importance of oral health. I'm really excited about that.
Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
So, Andrew, I'm so excited that we are finally putting this together. We've been talking about engaging with the students for a very long time now.
Yeah, it's been a long time, and it's about time that we started really giving them the focus that they deserve, right? They're the future of our profession.
They really are. And we're excited that PDT has sponsored this episode, because they do believe in the students being the future of our profession. They're going to be our colleagues, right?
You've heard about it in the past. We've been talking about PDT for a long time. They believe very much in quality education, and they've been sponsoring our episodes for a long time now.
Yes. And we think all of these episodes are actually going to be really great, even for the veteran hygienist. We really wanted to make these episodes and these roundtables focusing on topics that students are going to either be presented with when they go into new offices, maybe things that are happening during their time as a student. But, how do they go and move from student to new grad to experienced RDH?
Yeah, so we're expecting to have episodes. Sometimes it'll be on instrumentation. How to adapt to certain angles, using an ultrasonic, maybe sharpening the instruments. And then other times we're going to talk about what types of offices that you're going to encounter, whether it's corporate, private practice, maybe a DSO. We'll talk about pay structures. There's just so much that's out there that you're right. Even the veteran hygienist is going to need to know these things as well.
And so we hope you enjoy this episode, and be sure to check out PDT, your Paradise Dental Technologies, because they have some of the greatest instruments.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah?
It's time for the interview.
Oh, but I had something else to say.
We need to let the experts talk now.
Fine.
Hello, students and new grads. We have an amazing episode for you today on public health. And I want to welcome our guests, Jennifer, Kyle, and Amy, to the show. Thank you so much for being here and taking time out of this pre-Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Glad to be here.
What I'd like to do is let's start off with introductions, because one of the things about podcasts is it being audio. Our listeners are going to want to know who it is that speak. Who's that voice belong to? Now, Kyle's been on the show before, so everyone knows Kyle already. She's a freaking celebrity with our show. But let's start with Amy as a newbie. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been practicing both in public health and as a hygienist, kind of where you're from, all of that stuff.
My name is Amy Hazelwood, and I actually graduated in 1978, which puts me over 40 years in the profession of dental hygiene. And I started a nonprofit about 8 years ago, and it's called Dr. Angie's Dental Health Exchange. And it's to address adults who have no money, have no job, or possibly have a job but don't have a dentist, and end up in the emergency departments with tooth pain that never gets solved there. So they get referred to our program, and we get them to a dentist. The unique part about our program is that the adult patients do community service to earn care that is then donated by our local dentists.
Wow. I love that model. I love it a lot.
We didn't make it up, but it works for our community. Okay, go ahead. Now we can go ahead with Kyle.
Yes, I'm in Oregon, and I have been a dental hygienist for, I have to do the math, 37 years. So I'm not far behind you, Amy. And I've been in public health, I would say roughly 5 years, and in a variety of ways, working for an Fqhc part-time, doing sealants in the schools and going into facilities to see low-income patients. Going to be making a little bit of a transition. I'm hoping to continue with the sealants, but I'm also going to be working in an integrative medical office. So that's going to be new and different and exciting. And I have no idea how it's going to be. I'm going to be doing screenings, sealants, fluoride varnish, SDF, which is silver diamine fluoride, connecting people with their dental homes to help keep people out of the emergency rooms, a variety of stuff like that. And then I do my private business, and I mostly have dementia patients. I really love the dementia patients.
And Jennifer.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Hash. I graduated hygiene school in 2013, so I'm a newbie in comparison here, which means, I've been practicing as a hygienist for 6 years. I've been in dentistry for longer than 10. As far as public health goes, I did a externship in public health right away, but then wasn't hired. So worked in private practice for a year again before landing a role at an Fqhc. And my current position is kind of a hybrid position between clinical and administrative for an Fqhc. We have a school-based program as well, but we also have a fixed clinic where we see folks.
So I think where I'd like to start, I know that you guys touched on this a little bit, but I kind of want to start with a lot of the students and new grads that are listening to this are going to be thinking about motivating factors. So what was driving you towards what you're currently doing with public health? Or how did you get started, I guess I should say?
I actually was, I don't know if you'd call it a victim or a subject of public health dentistry as a child. I grew up in poverty, and I am so thankful that I have my teeth now because I was taken care of in a clinic. And this was long before Medicaid was even established. And so I think I always had kind of a heart for helping people. And when I graduated from hygiene school, I went right away to that same place where I had gotten care as a child and volunteered. Later, my daughter became a dentist, and she worked in public health dentistry. And when we found this concept, we didn't make up the idea of patients earning dental care, but she thought we should bring that to our area because there were people that couldn't get in anywhere else. And public health clinics only take so many patients. And there are some other places that rely on dental volunteers that were not well manned. And this just seemed like a little way that we might be able to get people in our community that had nowhere else to turn to get some dental care. And we don't even have an office. We operate with a cell phone and a laptop, and we enroll patients that are referred to us wherever it might be convenient for them around town. Transportation, when it's an issue, we were able to purchase some bus passes with some of the support we've gotten. But most people are able, if they can find their way to the ER, they're usually able to find their way to us as well. We get them enrolled, and they have to do 2 hours of community service to earn the care of a dentist. And the dentists do the care right in their own offices. So we have, at this point, we have one paid person. She works 10 hours a week. She has a dental assisting background. She's the one that enrolls the patients, but we also have hygiene and dental assisting volunteers that may be able to meet with them too. And we give them 2 hours for just for enrolling because we sneak a little education in on them that first visit. We've created it's about a 10-minute long video that hits all the high spots. You can watch that on YouTube if you're ever interested in seeing that. And then they're on their way. If they have one tooth problem to start with, they're on their way to the dentist right away. And we get them, we're partnered with both dental hygiene schools in our community, so they get preventive care and radiographs through the hygiene students. And then we had Patterson Dental donated EagleSoft to us, and we pay monthly for secure web access for our dentists. So they have a username and a password, and they're able to access all the digital x-rays and see what's been completed and what needs to be completed. So it's a lot of thought went into it. We probably didn't see our first patient for about 2 years. Establishing a nonprofit is kind of a challenge of its own, but we were able to do that. And we have a board made up of dentists and hygienists and an attorney.
We'll get started. We'll get into your individual things in just a few minutes. Let's go to Kyle. Kyle, what was your motivating factor? Why were you wanting to get into public health?
I worked in private dentistry for many years, and it kept bothering me that I knew there were people who couldn't, pay, or they didn't have insurance. And I did volunteer work, but, we know that like the Mission of Mercy, those kinds of big events are great, but they don't take care of everything. And so that was part of my motivating factor. And I was in California at the time. And so I was thinking about becoming an RDH-AP, which just means alternative practice. And so I started working towards that. And then we moved. We moved to Oregon, and I did not have a job. And my husband didn't have a job. So we kind of went with a lot of faith. And I did get a job in a corporate office, which is under the Gentle Dental, but it was mostly Medicaid patients. And at the same time, I was volunteering, and I got a job part-time with the county. And so I've been doing sealants with them for 4.5 years. But it was mostly, I was concerned about the people who weren't getting care.
And Jennifer?
I went into public health because of the need that I saw. Went to what we call a RAM. I've found out that many other states call them MOMS. So Mission of Mercy. In Kentucky, it's remote area medical. Went to several of those while I was in school. I think 3. Just saw the need. It was very similar to the need that I saw on mission trips. I had been on missions pretty much my whole life with my mom. I was fortunate enough to go to the dentist every 6 months as a kid, so didn't really connect that people could suffer from a lack of access to care until I saw the need. And just up the street from us, right? So folks in my neighborhood or in other parts of my city or other parts of my state. And so I just wanted to make an impact. I didn't think it was right, and I wanted to make an impact.
Do you all feel that there are, again, remembering this is for students, new grads, that there are barriers of entering the public health field compared to going into private practice?
In my case, there was, just because there was so much legality to cut through to start a nonprofit. So that was a challenge for me as, one of the founders. But for students or anybody that wants to volunteer in a public health setting, I think there are plenty of opportunities. You just have to be licensed. And we have, as you said, Mission of Mercy days here at one of the local colleges. There are a couple of dental offices that hold those. So I think it's great when schools get students interested in volunteering. And I think that's part of their whole public health program. And it just makes them feel comfortable being in any type of a population. So volunteering opportunities, I think, are out there.
For me, when I was in school, because it was so long ago, school was a lot different than it is now. And we had community health, and it was my least favorite class. And I thought, I am not doing that.
Lots of statistics. That's what I remember. Yeah.
It's not like, I don't know. It seemed different. So I wanted to just get into an office and work and just start going for it. And so that's what I did for many, many years. So I can't say, because I didn't search it out, but I think there are a lot more opportunities now because people in school are getting, I'm assuming Jennifer can probably talk more to this because she's more recent graduate, in school where you go and you volunteer. I don't remember having any of that when I was in school.
We did have rotations in public health settings. I don't know that that's consistent with all programs because I've spoken to other students from even within our state, so I'm sure nationally it really varies depending on which school you go to. But as far as opportunities or barriers, I think if you're looking for it, you'll find it. And I think a lot of students don't know that this is an opportunity because there's kind of this cookie cutter hygiene career path. And public health isn't always talked about. So if you're seeking it and you're interested in it, I would encourage you to talk to faculty, reach out to mentors within your state that are involved in public health settings, make connections, and those barriers will disappear for sure because there's a lot of need.
Can I say something else about that? You made me think of something. I've done some oral cancer screenings, and I've contacted the local dental hygiene schools to see if I could get students to come and help. So I've reached out to them, but another way for them would be to volunteer. And I have been at Mission of Mercy, where they had students there from some of the colleges in the Portland area.
Andrew, you asked about barriers. One might be the way laws are in each state. I know in Indiana, up until just very recently, we had to be under the direct supervision of a dentist. And so public health settings, you would have to have a volunteer dentist there before you could even, attend. Now you can go into school settings. And as of just last year, we can, with just a permission slip, go to a public health setting without the presence of a dentist and be able to perform our duties.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I feel like that's legislatively, things are changing quite a bit around the country in that way. I think up in the Northwest, we've had several of those types of things over the last several years as well. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
I kind of want to go back now to the different types of models that are out there for public health. We kind of talked a little bit, Amy, about, started talking about like the board, and there's that sounds like having a nonprofit is kind of a complicated process. And so if we can come back to that and finish your thoughts on that, because I think that it seems on the surface of it's like, well, I'll just start a nonprofit and then I'll start seeing patients with my little mobile dentistry cart thing. And it's not like that.
Right. You have to have a board of directors, and each of those has to fill out, kind of a complicated resume. And this all has to be filed with the federal government. And first of all, it costs about $900 just to file for the nonprofit status. You have to be tax exempt. We have to pay, I think, rather large insurance fees every year for board insurance and for just liability insurance. That's like $800 a year. It seems like a lot to me for the few people that we see. Once you get established, it's not so crazy. Even though we only have one employee and she works 10 hours a week, we have to pay a payroll service to pay her. And that it just takes the money from funds that we've raised, and we've gotten some grants. In fact, we got the Wrigley grant of $5,000 a couple of years ago. The Dental Trade Alliance Foundation gave us a nice grant to get our feet off the ground when we first started, and we rely on private donations. The cost for the internet security is every month we pay for our cell phone. Our employee, to encourage her to get people from enrolling to following through. And that's part of a challenge of people in that undereducated segment, getting them to show up for appointments. And we have a zero tolerance for that. And our no-show rate is very low because we tell them at the enrollment, if you miss an appointment, you're out. There are many other people that are waiting in line to come, and we just have zero tolerance for that. But they're, just little things along the way that I have learned so much about. You have to follow the rules when you have a board meeting, and like you can't say on Monday, oh, let's change the board meeting to Thursday instead of Friday. I mean, you have to give a lot of notice. It's almost run like a government, but we have a great board. Like I said, we have a couple of dentists, and when you were asking earlier about, volunteering and barriers, the nicest thing I think, besides that patients earn their care, is that dentists do it right in their own office. They don't have to leave the practice. They don't have to work with equipment they may not be familiar with, or with assistants or staff. And the patients are treated with a really nice, respectful greeting, because no one even knows that they're there as, quote, a charity case. They're blended in with all the other patients. So it gives them a good feeling that they've earned something and that they're not different, because I think that's part of our goal in life, is to just not be singled out or look different than other people.
I love that. Jennifer, you mentioned Fqhc. It's a term we've used on the podcast before, but it's also kind of unfamiliar. Can you maybe just kind of briefly talk about what an Fqhc is and kind of the structure of it?
Absolutely. So it stands for Federally Qualified Health Center. Amy, I commend you for creating your own nonprofit, but that's not something I have the time to do right now. It is its own nonprofit already created. It is a health clinic. And as an Fqhc, there are certain guidelines that they have to follow by the federal government. And so HRSA, the Health Resources Service Agency, actually has very specific guidelines for Fqhcs to qualify to receive funding from the federal government, and we meet those qualifications. We received Fqhc designation in 2014, which is this whole big process that our CEO and CFO took on. I didn't have to worry about any of that, but we are a dental practice within kind of the way I explain it to people who are completely unfamiliar is that it's kind of a one-stop shop for health. So we have medical, dental, behavioral health. Some Fqhcs in town have pharmacies, pediatrics, women's health, depending on the size and the community they serve. One of the stipulations is that you work in a health provider shortage area. And so we work in a community that either is underserved or underinsured or both, or has low socioeconomic status, or a combination of those things. The people that we serve also have to make up the board. So one of the rules of an Fqhc is that 51% of the board has to be patients utilizing some service within the board. So that gives folks a stake in their own healthcare, which I think is important and kind of unique to the Fqhc world.
I love that a lot, but I would assume that maybe you as a hygienist, I know your role's a little bit of a hybrid role, but as a hygienist, then you're not responsible for the funding and all, like you don't have to worry about that side of things, I wouldn't assume.
So I am the dental services manager. That's my administrative part. And I help hire and fire our dental staff. I help with grant writing. I help with supply ordering. In the nonprofit realm or the public health realm of dentistry, you find yourself wearing many hats. So the short answer to your question is yes, but I don't do it alone. In the Fqhc world, I have a whole team that helps support me, and I have leadership development opportunities to learn how to do those things. I'm not teaching myself from scratch, which is what it sounds like Amy did. So.
And Kyle, with your new venture, it's going to be a different, kind of an interesting role. Can you talk a little bit more about what is on? I know it's really new, so it's kind of a lot of theoreticals at this point.
Yes, I haven't seen any patients yet. I'm still learning how to figure out the electronic health records, which is a little bit different than what we're used to in dentistry, but I'll get that figured out. I'm going to be working in an integrative office, which is pretty cool. They have naturopathic doctors, nurse practitioners, mental health, chiropractor, acupuncture, and I believe that's it. And then they're adding dental. And so I'm going, at least at the beginning, you know how things can morph over time. And so the plan is for me to do screenings, connect people with their dental home. Most of the people, I believe, will have the Oregon Health Plan, which is Medicaid. There will be some, fee-for-service patients as well. So getting them connected and looking at all the metrics, keeping an eye on who is going, how many are going to the emergency room, if we're cutting down on the emergency room visits. I'm going to be doing sealants for the kids, silver diamine fluoride varnish, education, oral hygiene education, nutritional counseling, and hopefully I will help bridge the connection between the medical providers to understand more about the importance of oral health. I'm really excited about that.
I just have something to add to Andrew. I was thinking as you were asking the question, or as Kyle was responding to the question, that we do have hygienists on staff that are just clinical hygienists. And that's how I started out in an Fqhc, was just a clinical hygienist working in a different setting. So while I have a position that takes on all those other responsibilities, there are opportunities for students to go right into clinical hygiene within an Fqhc.
Now, do each of you have a target population that you are trying to serve?
We only serve adults. You have to be 18 to enroll in our program. We know that there are programs, including Medicaid for children, and there really is just nothing for adults unless they do qualify for Medicaid themselves.
For me, I like all the populations, and that makes it really tough because sometimes you have to make a choice. It's hard to see everybody. So when I work with the county, which I believe is also an Fqhc, it's a community health center, and they have and this is in Benton County. So this is not my integrative office where I'm going to be working directly with the medical providers. In Benton County, I've been doing the sealants in the schools. And so I see the kids. And then we also have a clinic that's newly built for adults, for adult hygiene. And then I've been going to the facilities, to nursing homes and adult daycares, assisted living facilities. So I'm seeing patients there generally who are older, but, you do have younger people who live in those types of facilities. Some of them have dementia. Some of them have other issues. And I can tell you both in the schools and in these facilities, it's just amazing the lack of oral care, that nobody knows because people either aren't complaining and nobody's looking. So it is mind-boggling for me.
So our health center was born out of a needs assessment that went across our county, and that data showed that the 40212 zip code had the lowest life expectancy in our city. And there's lots of reasons for that, but they created the health center to try to combat some of those disparities. So our target community is the Shawnee neighborhood in the west end of Louisville, which is a historically segregated area of town and suffers from a lack of investment and historical racism and systemic racism. And so folks in the neighborhood suffer from access to a lot of things. There's a food desert there. There's a health access desert there. And so that's the community that we serve, all ages.
When was your needs assessment done?
2011.
And then how often are you required to do one?
So I don't know the answer to that, but I know it's a part of our application to keep our Fqhc. I think it's every 3 years.
Have you been able to, are there statistics to prove that, hey, now that we put this Fqhc in this neighborhood, we've slowly been trying, seeing some success, or is it still too early to see that?
I think it's still very early. I know we have a lot of interventions in place. For example, there's a 12% asthma rate in the children in the neighborhood. And so one of the schools that we serve is not just a dental program, but it's also a medical program. And one of the initiatives that they got were inhalers and nebulizers in the school for the children to have access to, as well as those same tools at home, and, a kind of a teaching intervention for the families. There's a lot of factories in the area. In fact, there's a really close by place called Rubber Town, which affects air quality. So there's a lot of different disparities that the neighborhood is dealing with. And it's going to take just as much time to correct these issues as it did to create them. But we're definitely committed for the long haul.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that a lot. So as these students / new grads, it's the time for graduation now as we're recording this. So we're going to see a lot of new grads here coming out. I want to talk a little bit about, and it's always hard, it's always a touchy thing, but pay and benefits. When you're looking at private practice versus corporate versus public health, which I think are the kind of the three big ones in avenues that you can go into as a new grad, what can they expect as far as pay and benefits?
I get paid $0 for mine. Mine's all volunteer, but I'm semi-retired. Just to let you students know what a dream dental hygiene can be. I've worked a lot of places, but my mainstay I've worked in for 38 years. And I now work 2 days a week from April till December. And then I go to Florida for 4 months. So I've kind of worked my way up to that. But I just think it's such a great profession to be able to work less when you're raising a family, work more when your kids want money more than you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Public, from my view, and I know Kyle and Jennifer will comment on that. I think one of the things that lacks in private practice is like medical benefits. So I think if you're working in a public health setting with a full-time position, that's probably going to be more likely there.
So with the county, I've been an on-call temporary hygienist for 4.5 years doing the sealants. And so I don't get any benefits. I think I get a little sick pay. I don't have any benefits with them. If you are more than 20 hours, they do give you whatever all the benefits are, but the hourly rate is quite a bit lower. And I do it because I love it. I don't do it for the money.
I actually started out a few dollars less than what I was making in private practice. I mentioned earlier when we were discussing that I worked in private practice for a year as a hygienist, but I took that pay cut because I knew I was getting a loan repayment possibly. And also the benefit package was killing the private practice benefits. So I knew that, having an extra $40,000 to pay off my loans was going to make a huge deal. And then I worked my way up, and I'm currently pursuing my MPH. And it's hard to say. I mean, I'm happy to discuss specifics with folks. If they want to reach out to me one-on-one, I will give you dollar amounts. I will tell you what my benefit package looks like, but I feel like I'm very well paid for the work that I do. And it's definitely a rewarding position. And the hygienists that I know that graduated with me are working, similar hours, making similar equivalents. I am salary. They are hourly. I have medical, dental, vision, 401k, all of these things that you may not necessarily see in a private practice. For those folks that work for a DSO or a more corporate organization, they may have similar access to a benefit package, but they also work very, very hard in my area. So
I think that it's really important for our listeners to understand that even if you do reach out to Jennifer's in one section of this big country that we have, that their dollar amount might be different than the Northwest or Indiana or Florida.
That's why I said going into specifics isn't really helpful unless we can give context because of the cost of living differences.
So when I first moved to Oregon and didn't have a job, I volunteered with the county when they went and did screenings at the schools before they did the sealants. They go and they do just a very quick screening and then a note goes home. And that's how I got my job. So if you're interested for the students in doing something like that, and also to see if it's something you think you would like to do, I highly recommend volunteering in a variety of different public health offices or centers or, whatever. And I know myself, and I'm sure, that Amy and Jennifer too, I'm always open to talking to new students. I might not know everything, but maybe I can find someone who does as to mentor and to help answer questions.
Absolutely, Kyle. When the job market was pretty poor around here for a few years, it's picking up now, and it's actually turned quite a bit around. But when students couldn't find jobs right away, I said, volunteer. I said, that's how you network. That's how you meet people. And what is a better resume builder than someone who has volunteered? I mean, you're automatically a nice person if you want to help people. And not only that, I just feel that when you're in a medical or a dental profession, I think we take an oath that we want to help people. And I think that we should have an obligation to pro bono our gifts and our services to people that can't afford it. People appreciate it so much, and it makes them in turn want to pay it forward. I mean, that's how our whole country should be run, our whole world, really. When you help others, gifts come to you. And it just feels really good to have someone thank you for going out of your way for them. If you're going into hygiene, just because you heard that hygienists make really good money, it's not going to be fulfilling to you. You have to want to help people.
So we're coming up on the end of this little short introductory roundtable. I wanted to maybe get one last thought from each of you. Again, speaking specifically to this younger, newer audience about public health in general, rah-rahs or warnings.
I say just go for it. Even the people that have volunteered as participants in our program had never really done that before. It kind of forced them into it. And we have found that our volunteers go on even after their dental treatments are completed because they enjoy it too. We've had a couple people actually find employment that way. Some of our participants were working in food pantries and were offered jobs. So I just think public health is just such an important part of our whole community that we can all participate in. I can't think of too many negative things. It really is a plus for everybody.
I often say that I get more out of it than the patients do. And especially, when I see my dementia patients, I get to hold their hand. I can look in their eyes. I can sing to them. Some of them sing with me. And I just feel like I get more out of it. But I was also going to say to continue to be a member of ADHA, maybe get involved with your local component or the state. And that's a good way to network and meet other people who maybe are already doing this kind of stuff. So you can ask questions and find out, what is your passion, which, maybe population group. Like I said earlier, I like them all. I love the special needs patients. I love people of all different cultures, the older people, the young kids, and that can make it difficult because then you have to choose.
I would say do not underestimate the potential of your impact in this career. What started out for me as charity and volunteering turned into realizing that the need was too great for that and that we needed a systemic overhaul. So I've moved away from kind of that volunteer mindset, which is still very much needed, into a more justice-focused mindset so that we can make some huge changes that kind of turn over the apple cart and look at oral health and health in general as something that we can do differently to bring justice and to bring folks to access to care. So just think bigger and definitely get out there and see what you can do in your community to help folks, for sure.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here. Contact information. I'm sure people are going to want to reach out, and you guys are going to touch people in different parts of their heart as they're going to want to talk to you. Maybe we'll start with Amy, then Kyle, then Jennifer. If you'll just give some contact information, website, whatever they can do to look up more information about you.
Mm-hmm. Well, our email is info@drangies.com. And Dr. Angie's Dental Health Exchange is the name of our program. And we have a website that you can go to with that information. And if you get on YouTube, you can see testimonies of some of our patients. You can see our educational video. Maybe that would be something that you might even be able to use to educate some of your people, that you're non-public health people. And my personal email address is amyhaz7@yahoo.com. I don't mind you emailing me there. I'm in Northern Indiana and be happy to hear from you. Good luck to you in your profession of dental hygiene. You picked a great one.
Anybody can find me on Facebook, and my email is kjulin@gmail.com. It's the only thing I didn't change after I got divorced. I just couldn't deal with it. Anyway, so yeah, on Facebook, I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. I don't really remember what my names are. I do have a website, milestosmiles.com. I think it's MILESTWO smiles.com.
You can reach me at jennifer@rdhonamission.com or jennifer.hash@gmail.com, and that's HASCH. And you can see my website /blog at rdhonamission.com and find me on Facebook too, wherever Kyle is.
There's Dr. Angie has a Facebook.
We're in the same boats.
Well, thank you so much, all three of you, for being here. We appreciate your time. Appreciate what you do for the public and also for our student listeners and our future hygienists and the hygienists of today. We appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. It was fun chatting.
Welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks,
Andrew.
We hope you really enjoyed that roundtable, and be sure to check out PDT Dental. Head over to their website, Paradise Dental Technologies, and if you're on the show floor, going to trade shows, go see them. Check them out. They're great, great people.
And a special thank you to the guests that were on this episode. Feel free to reach out to them as well. They have a lot of good information for you, and they like to be contacted. So you'll see their information in the show notes.
And be sure to follow us on Instagram or Facebook. You're welcome to send us messages through either of those social media platforms. And you can send us a message at a tale of two hygienist at gmail.com. You can even email us directly, either Michelle at a tale of two hygienist.com or Andrew at a tale of two hygienist.com. And head over to our website and subscribe to our newsletter, a tale of two hygienist.com.
There's a theme going on there if you haven't been able to tell. And also, we're always looking for ideas for student roundtables. So if you're a student and you have a specific topic you want us to tackle, please reach out to us. Let us know.
We appreciate you for listening, and we hope you have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.